Advanced Residential Applications and Case Studies. Chapter 10, Questionable Property Characteristics Case Study. Page 4. Does a lower fee mean the assignment is simpler? Many times, appraisers and clients wrongly assume that such an assignment is relatively simple compared to an appraisal that involves a thorough examination of the land and improvements. This is evidenced by the fact that many lender clients expect to pay less for a drive-by appraisal than they are accustomed to paying for an appraisal that involves a complete interior inspection of the subject property improvements. The idea is that since the appraiser did not get out of the car, then obviously this type of assignment requires less effort and time, and therefore the appraiser's fee should be reduced. Unfortunately, if the appraiser buys into this idea that the lower the fee, the lower the level of inspection of the subject, and the simpler the assignment, then that appraiser is setting himself and the client up for potentially significant trouble. This reduced scope of work may actually mean the assignment is more complex than an assignment with a greater scope of work. The challenge lies in knowing what you are appraising. The appraiser must identify the real estate being appraised, and even though the appraiser has many methods of identifying the subject property's physical as well as legal and economic characteristics, one of the most commonly utilized and most productive methods is personal observation or inspection of the subject site and improvements. Lacking an opportunity to personally observe the property appraised, the appraiser must be very careful to identify the property characteristics by way of the other means available. Many appraisers fail to recognize that when they are appraising a property without the benefit of a significant personal observation, complete visual inspection, as Fannie Mae says, they have a greater responsibility to obtain information about the subject from other sources to compensate for their inability to observe the real estate adequately. They also fail to realize that such an assignment will often require the appraiser to employ one or more extraordinary assumptions in the appraisal process, and that they must also properly disclose the extraordinary assumptions in the appraisal report. They also must include a clear disclosure that the use of the extraordinary assumptions might have impacted the appraiser's opinions and conclusions. Therefore, because these assignments are so common and yet so commonly misunderstood, as to their complexity, we will consider as one of our case studies a drive-by appraisal of a property with questionable property characteristics. End of page. Page 5. Questionable property characteristics scenario. You have been asked to perform an as-is market value opinion of the fee simple ownership rights of a property as of a current effective date. Your client, a mortgage lender, is proceeding with foreclosure of the subject property due to loan default. The client has instructed you to appraise the property, but not to contact the borrower. The client is concerned that the borrower/owner may be antagonistic to you or anyone else involved in the foreclosure process, and they therefore do not want you to be endangered in any way. The client has instructed you to not set foot on the property or even notify the borrower/owner that you are inspecting the property for the purpose of appraising it. The client recommends that you literally drive by the property, slow down and get a look, but do not stop your car or spend much time observing the property, even from the street. You first check your office files and indexes to see if you or any other appraisers in your office have ever performed an appraisal or inspection of this property. Unfortunately, you find nothing pertinent in your files. You then check the MLS database for your area, but you find nothing in the current database. The only information at all which corresponds to the subject property's municipal address is a listing for a vacant lot approximately 13 years ago, retained in the MLS archives. You decide that apart from the physical dimensions of the site, 100 feet by 150 feet, as noted in this dated listing, nothing else such as the price paid and date of sale is relevant to the current market value of the subject property. Next, you access your county public records online to find whatever information you can. The subject property, according to the plat and legal description, found in courthouse records consists of a 100 by 150 foot site, which is consistent with that dated MLS information. In a deed restricted residential subdivision that is located in a suburban neighborhood. According to the assessment on file, improvements include a site-built single-family residential dwelling. The assessor in your county restricts the information available to the public. However, you cannot determine anything specific about the improvements due to these restrictions. Therefore, you do not know the room count or gross living area of the home. The clerk of courts has several conveyances recorded for this property. You find that 2 years ago, the current owners purchased the property for $178,000. So you note this information. No other transfers of title have occurred in the past 36 months. Given the limited access that the assessor allows, you come away from this research with some very basic information about the legal characteristics of the property, but not much specific information about its physical characteristics. You check with a friend of yours downtown to see if any building permits have been acquired for this property recently. He discovers that a permit was issued for the addition of a 500 square foot bedroom and bath for this property approximately 12 months ago. But his office has no record of any subsequent inspections or any indication that this construction project was completed as planned. End of page. Page 6. At the property. As the client has requested, you drive to the subject neighborhood and proceed to drive by the subject property. Your rolling observation of the improvements reveals what appears to be a single-family dwelling. The home is apparently of wood frame construction, has a poured concrete slab foundation and brick veneer exterior walls. At least on the front and sides of the dwelling. The roof surface appears to be composite shingle and is apparently in average condition, at least as far as you can determine from the street. Although you really could not know if there are any leaks or defects. You notice that the windows appear to be double pane insulated metal frame with screens in place. A chimney indicates that the home has some type of fireplace. You observe an attached double carport and briefly notice two access doors off of the carport. One of these appears to access the living area, probably the kitchen, and the other probably accesses a utility room, which may or may not open up to the living area of the dwelling. A privacy fence and neighboring properties on either side prevent you from viewing anything beyond the front and sides of the dwelling. So you cannot determine anything about the rear. You manage to quickly snap a photograph of the front of the dwelling while you drive back by the home. Be careful. Multitasking while behind the wheel is not recommended, and you do your best to observe all the details that you can as you cruise by this second time. You notice that the yard is in need of mowing, although you observe cars in the driveway and there are indications that the home is still occupied, as your client has stated. Also, some peeling paint on various exterior wood surfaces of the home. Some trash is even lying outside one of the front windows, as if the window was opened and the trash was just dumped out of the window. A hot water tank is lying on its side next to the carport, and it appears to be used rather than new. These observations are in contrast to the other homes in the immediate vicinity, and they are all very neat in appearance and appear to have no visible defects or needed repair / maintenance issues. Upon returning to your office, you realize that you did not take a photograph facing down the street on which the subject is located. So you get back in your car and drive to the subject neighborhood again. As you arrive in front of the subject dwelling, you carefully snap a quick photograph through your front windshield, aiming down the street so as to capture some of the neighboring homes. As you roll by the house again, you look over and see that two men are loading into the back of a pickup truck what appears to be kitchen cabinets that apparently just been removed from the home. As you drive off, looking in your rear view mirror, you spot a central air conditioning compressor that is now sitting next to the hot water tank that you observed earlier lying next to the carport. These people are definitely busy with some projects today, and you have a feeling they don't qualify as home improvements. End of page.